Hello, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to this new webinar today with me and Cornell Hillman. It's a pleasure, everybody, to have you here, and it's a pleasure to have you, Cornell.
Thanks.
And by the way, respect, because it's very late in Singapore. So let's all pay a little bit of acknowledgement to that. So thanks, Cornell, for indeed staying up this late with us. And maybe let me start very quickly, right? With anybody that is watching this live, we are here with Cornell, the author of UX for XR. And it's a book that's been published. How long ago, Cornell?
It came out in June this year. So
Right.
in June 2021, published by A Press New York. And A Press is a company by Springer Nature, the academic publisher.
Right.
So it's one of the leading academic publishers in the world. And they're really good. So A Press is a special brand where they publish IT-related books.
Yeah, something that this was also not the first book that you published.
Right.
I'm sure about that. And the point is, besides, if anybody has read the book or in general has any questions, so please don't hesitate to share it. And by the way, we do have some people saying hi. Kartik is saying hi. Then we also have Android also saying hello. Guys, where are you from, by the way? We have Cornell from Singapore. I'm the Netherlands. Not sure if anybody of you guys coming from the US or the other side of the world.
Oh, wait, one second. My thing fell out.
Indeed, we see that people are excited to actually try ShapesXR, something that we are going to cover, right? Something that also we're going to discuss today, as indeed Cornell is a big fan of prototyping too, right? Let's just keep it like that, because prototyping is important wherever you do it, right? So let's be platform agnostic. And we have Osama from Egypt, and we have Denison from Brazil, Saverio from Italy. Ciao, Saverio. We have people from Montreal, Canada, and Heinz Popovich. Hello, Cornell, LG Osvien.
Great, yeah, it's a good. He's an old friend of mine.
Awesome. So from Paris, so it's great. And guys, please remember to ask questions. And what we are going to do today is a bit like the following. I'm going to ask some questions, because actually June was perfect, because I started summer holiday, and for me it was the perfect read for the summer. I've got through it, appreciated everything, made some notes, and what a better occasion than actually get here with Cornell to actually ask some questions. Because I was taking notes, and then I was wondering, what about this and what about that? So you're going to go about some of these questions, turn into some then of more UX practices and some example about Cornell process, and then we're going to hop in ShapesXR to see how some of those concepts can actually be materialized, right? So that's kind of like how the chat is gonna go by today. And do not hesitate any moment to actually share questions or doubts that you have. So let me start. Maybe Cornell, right? For anybody that doesn't know you, why don't you, while I set up the screen, maybe introduce briefly yourself, and then we can move on.
Yeah, thanks for the nice introduction, Gabrielle. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited. I'm a big fan of ShapesXR, and the more I'm using it, the more I like it. So it's really cool. And so basically, I'm an XR designer, and I've been doing this for quite some time. So my previous book was actually on the Unreal Engine. My first book was on developing VR apps with the Unreal Engine, and that was more a hands-on, very technical book, how you really build applications from scratch. So basically without any templates, without anything else. So basically how to build applications from scratch. And this book, UX for XR, which recently came out, and is more on the bigger ideas of UX. And it's, let's not forget, it's a design thinking book. So it's not about like how to design a menu or UX UI stuff. It's the bigger design thinking ideas of where things are moving, platforms, technologies, and where the designer stands in all of this. And actually, before I wrote the book, I was researching a little bit, and of course, I had interviews with UX designers about what they wanted to know and these kind of things. So basically, all of that went into the book, and here we are.
Here we are, and we're not alone. So we have also Stefan from Quebec, Henry from Nigeria. Hi guys, and again, don't hesitate to actually ask a question. And meanwhile, I'm gonna ask the first questions, and it actually starts with this. So these are two different pages of the book, and I want to start because since indeed this is about the high-level picture, it's about the ideation, the testing, the iterations, right? It's not about how to put a menu with a button there, right? So one of the things that you mentioned here was about the UX trinity, right? About desirable, usable, and useful. And desirability you mentioned here is the factor that makes user return to the product because it creates long-lasting value and has a meaningful and satisfying effect on the user, right? And that is absolutely a very strong statement. A few pages later, then you mentioned something. That is, the reality is that the vast majority of projects are event-driven experiences for small and medium enterprises, internal enterprise project or special program involving organization and institutions. Those seems like application where it's particularly important to have the usability and the usefulness as the core aspect to focus, other than what is maybe desirable in a sense, right? Where it's about the appeal and like the of that specific application. For those that I believe it's something of the topic that people are very connected with, how do you balance this UX trinity on these like maybe more B2B focused projects?
Yeah, I mean that's a very good question, because very often a misunderstanding from clients or stakeholders in general is that UX is all about usability, right? So very often people think of what a UX designer does. He just tests usability, So and we have to understand that usability is what happens during the time we're using an application, right? So while we're using it, that's usability. But what happens before and after is just equally as important. And that is part of the bigger picture of what UX does, like before we use an application and after. So the whole the whole customer life cycle of an experience. And it's important, especially what you mentioned about non-gaming or enterprise applications, because because very often, if you produce an app for an enterprise client and people don't use the application, you may get paid. You get, your job is done, you get paid, and you think everyone's happy. But if the application is not being used, then you don't grow your business. So you have to make sure that the stuff you do, somebody's coming in the back.
neglecting.
One of those classics,
Yeah.
So basically, that's why that part is so important, because to be able to grow your business or
Right.
to get more, to have a happy client, you have to make sure that people actually use this stuff. And for that, it has to be desirable. It has to be more than usable. There has to be more than.
Yeah. Let's not forget that. I mean,
Yeah.
there might be the temptation to keep things. Let's get the job done. But at the end, if there is not desirability aspect in it, even though to a certain extent people will not get back to it, you might get paid, but just once, not the second time where they ask for
Exactly.
Great.
And that's and very often I notice that a lot of times people they just want to get paid and man, done, but it's good to to follow up and see if if it's been used, and take care, if find out if it's not being used, what the issue is, and these kind of things, so that's what I'm saying.
I do have another question, and you mentioned about an XR Ninja, and that was like, okay, what is this XR Ninja? And so this XR Ninja is someone who has the full stack XR designer, right, as you define it. So it is, and to be said, it's not a developer, right? But it's someone that has the high level UX design, the UI design, interaction design, 3D art, right? Sometimes can create 3D model or asset, can do some basic scripting to add interaction and so on. So that is basically this full stack, right? In this XR Ninja. And then you will say, hey, these are unicorn, but is that what you want? And you mentioned here, well, that's not always what you want, right? Because sometimes traditional UXers still bring a lot of value because they look at things from a different perspective than that XR Ninja. So if we look at maybe at the traditional UXs, what are you think the minimum requirement that could help them move more towards that? So how would you prioritize your growth, your personal growth, to move into that path? Because of course it's huge, right? Should I go into the asset creation? Should I go into interaction design? How would you approach that, someone that wants to move from a traditional UX background?
Yeah, I mean, that's also a very good question, because that comes up quite often, because not everyone is made to be a VR or XR ninja. So an XR ninja is, you have to be the type to do that, you have to be the personality for that. And not everyone is that type of personality. So the VR ninja or XR ninja is comparable to what, in, for example, what the 3D generalist is in visual effects. So a 3D generalist is someone who knows everything. He can fix 3D assets. He can pull off some weird effects. He can fix the server if it's broken. So it's someone who can, so basically who can fix any problem and still knows everything. And so not everyone is born to be that. Some people are rather focused on a specific line of work, and that's also a good thing, to be focused on something. So it depends on your personality. So, but I think it's important for UX designers to understand the technology, the platforms, the opportunities, and the limitations. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I basically in the book explain all these things, because that's important knowledge for UX designers to understand. So what tools are there? What platforms are there? What can they do? Where are the limitations? And you don't have to know all the tools. You don't have to be able to code or all these things. You have to understand it. That's super important. And to be able to get that understanding of it, you have to use it, or you have to try it out. You have to get the idea of what you want to, how you're going to communicate that, so that's a way to balance that, so you don't have to be an XR ninja, and you don't have to be a completely totally UX traditional UXer, but you can be somewhere in the middle. You can have a good idea of what the tools, technologies are, and without doing any coding, without doing anything technical, but still understand what's going on. So I think that's important.
So we have indeed Denison Contardias. Sounds like a really cool kind of ninja. Yeah, one is multifaceted, right? Depending on where he is, he's gonna be able to do different things. And maybe a question to the people that are listening. So if you are in this space, what would you define yourself? Maybe closer to the XR ninja, or closer to the traditional UXer? I mean, I'm actually curious, because also this brings me to another point that I think it's also good always to kind of find ways to practice, to show your work. And one thing that I want to share today is actually that we have a contest ongoing. at ShapesXR. So in this contest we have, maybe let me bring it up very quickly, because that's something that, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, Cornell. Are you going to participate?
If I have time, if I have time.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
It's good. So we have a contest. So we are challenging people to actually design the future of media consumption in the metaverse. And there are some incredible prizes with Amazon voucher, 1 year subscription to ShapesXR, and also courses from our sponsor, Circuit Stream. Then we will select 3 people, and out of those 3, they will have the chance to pitch live in front of a jury made by Rhea Fisher at Netflix Animation, at Meta, with Anand Das, and Karen Singer, responsible product manager at YouTube VR. So it's a stellar really jury. So guys, if you are actually I realize I'm not sharing my screen. Yeah. So actually, you see, so this is part of the jury: Rhea Fisher, Anand Das, and Karen Singer, and then we have some of the prizes here above with the cash prizes. So please join, and I'm gonna put a banner so that you guys know where to find it. And but meanwhile, where are you guys from? In a sense, are you more UXers, traditional UXers, or are you more ninja? Curious about that. Then I do have one more question, and that's the moment that we go then into your own process, Cornell, because I'm really curious about that. And that is actually, I'm going to quote you: the highly efficient pipeline from low fidelity to high fidelity prototype and established protocols for the developer handoff have powered the agile product design revolution with highly dynamic energy. To transfer this undisputed winning formula to digital XR product, we need to look at pain point in the XR prototyping process. Right? It's like a turning point in the book when you say, hey, we are lacking the prototyping. We are lacking that iteration. And you bring up also this topic about the low fidelity, about the high fidelity, what it means for you. I think at this point, Cornell, just tell us what's your secret.
Yeah, I mean that's also, I like that question, because I mean that a lot of the book is about that, because the one of the reasons why I wrote the book was also to take on that question: how can we bring what works so well for the web and mobile economy, that winning formula, that winning UX success formula that has been so super successful. Look at all the unicorns, all the huge success stories. I mean, a lot of them are UX driven. They're UX success stories. And how can we bring that into the XR world? So that was the big question mark. And one of the reasons why this UX formula is so successful is because this prototyping process, an iterative process, as part of the agile thinking very often, in product management, and in terms of software development, agile thinking, you have to always see it in that context. This process of quickly iterating, prototypes and making changes, that is part of the huge success. And how can we do that in XR where things are a little more complicated? And so I spent quite a lot of time in the book to look at that issue, because the thing is this: like, if we, as a UX designer, if we go in and we have an amazing idea to solve a problem, and then later it turns out, man, this is really difficult to pull off. So it's an amazing solution which is really difficult to get to a prototyping stage, then you kind of very often you're in danger of ending up in a dead end often, Also depends on the scale of the project. I mean, my experience is mostly from SMEs, small, medium enterprises. But I mean, one of the approaches I'm suggesting in the book is to use visual scripting and frameworks. So these are the components basically to get quickly to prototypes, to quickly iterate, and to go from low fidelity with ideation, something with ShapesXR, something into high fidelity using a framework with visual scripting, because if we go the traditional way by just coming up with the idea and then letting it all be done by coders, then in the end we find out, hey man, this is not what we wanted, then we have to start all over because this is not going to work. So we have to kind of fine tune this whole process. And one of my own approaches is, so I have my own method. So as a UX designer, you probably have to find your own formula, depending on what tools you like and stuff. So basically, I have my own secret formula. So I use my own tool set. I use, at the other workshop I was showing, I very often, for example, use Twinmotion for environment testing, which ties very nicely into the Unreal Engine, So then it also depends on what's important to your stakeholders and clients, For example, sometimes they're very picky about certain things. They're very picky about their branding and their visual design and their design systems. And they want continuity of their design systems across media channels. So in that case, you cannot just go in and come up with any menu that you kind of like, kind of looks cool, You can't do that. You have to look at their design systems and translate that into the XR space.
Is that also that early in the design when you start ideating, when you start prototyping, maybe a low to mid fidelity, that they are picky about that?
It depends on the stakeholders and the clients. It all depends. Some are extremely picky. For them, it's the most important thing. And so that all depends on the product, on the platform, on the client. So but it can happen, and then this will be the first thing that they'll be looking at. So basically, what I'm saying is you have to evaluate that what's super important to the client or the stakeholders. For example, another example is environments. So you think you come up with a cool environment, but then it turns out they're super sensitive about certain things in the environment. Like if you look outside the window, if they see a mountain that would be completely wrong. I mean, they have a very clear idea of location and these kind of things. So you have to figure out what is important and how you will be able to prototype and test it.
There is a question from Darison. Is there any app like Twinmotion for people who use Unity?
I don't think so, really. But Twinmotion is, Twinmotion is basically ties into the Unreal Engine, But I mean, you can also do, it's about, basically what Twinmotion does is visualization. It's an architectural visualization app. There's some competitors in that field. What's the other one called? Lumen, I think. And it's about building environments that you can quickly test. That's the idea behind it. And so any tool they can use, you can also try to do it with Blender or any 3D application, basically. But Twinmotion is just very fast and very efficient. That's what it is.
Right. So you mentioned that you had something that you wanted to share, right? You had some visual that you want to share.
Let me put it on the screen. Hold on a second.
Meanwhile, guys, please go ahead and ask some questions. So meanwhile, while you do that, are you guys in ShapesXR planning to release a more complete UI icon set anytime soon? Yes, we are planning to expand the library, Diego. Thanks for the question. Just for your own notice, remember that you can always import also your own file on the shapes.app panel. So you could import your own images, PNG, JPEG, and just drag them, as well as 3D models, OBJ. Just drag them inside the shapes.app panel to enrich your library with UI elements or maybe other objects that you might want to use. And by the way, we have just a question. Thanks, Cornell. Dennison is thank you for the reply. Here we go. No, it was not this. It's this. Here we go.
Yeah. So my little presentation is just a few slides. I wanted to talk about the topic I just mentioned about prototyping. So most UXers are most likely familiar with. Oh, there's a window that shouldn't be here. Most UXers should be familiar with the double diamond. And the double diamond is the design process from research to design, where in the first diamond you design, you narrow down what the problem is and how you're gonna approach it, and then second diamond you iterate, and you basically build the product. And so I was just wanted to, in the book I talk about this, the overlapping double diamond. So I call this the mystery of the overlapping double diamond, because in XR we have the problem that some things are really hard to do, and there's some things that are easy wins. So if you use a framework and use visual scripting, there are some template functions that are easy to pull in, and I usually like to reference them early on, and that gives me an advantage. And that's why I have the overlapping double diamond, because I consider the design already while I'm doing my research. So that's why the second diamond is overlapping into the first one, because I'm already considering framework functions when I nail down my ideas. And that region in the middle I call XR mapping. So I talk about that in the book. That also includes the OOUX that we talked about at some other webinar. And let me go to the next slide. Oh wait, tricks. And in that context, I wanted to mention that I wonder if you guys have seen the Facebook Connect, or Meta Connect, what it's called now, this year. And the highlight is very often is the John Carmack keynote. And I'm always looking forward, because Carmack, of course, as you guys know, is the developer legend. And it's always interesting what His Holiness has to say. And I thought what was very interesting this year, when in his monologue about where we are with XR, he said the XR world, or the metaverse at the moment, is about screens and people, And I think that is super important, and I think he nailed it there, because he compared it with, and this is the graphic at the bottom here, with when the smartphone era began. The smartphone actually absorbed a lot of other media devices, like music player, snapshot camera, handheld game device. And XR is going to absorb, for example, computer and mobile screens, entertainment TV screens, and device displays. And that's something very important, because, and he said that it's important we have to get screens right in VR. And that means we have to design, what people look at now, like on computer screens, on tablets. If we bring that into XR, those have to be really good, for if we really want to replace the real world screens that people use.
Oh, also, Cornel, I feel like that's also a bit of a dangerous statement in a sense. When you mention about screens, it feels like people, let's put screens in VR. And that is not always what I think might be the best approach, because very often what people think, of course, I get the way he did it, but some people might take that literally and just start putting screens in VR. That's also, a dangerous part.
Yeah, you have to understand. The bigger idea he was talking about is like how similar to the smartphone that absorbed a lot of media devices, because if you look at before there was MP3 players, right? And the iPhone, when the iPhone was presented as an MP3 player, the MP3 player had to be really good had to be really convincing to replace the actual MP3 player, right? So it had to be good enough to actually replace it. And that's what he meant by that. So he meant that if we are in XR and we want to replace mobile screens, all sorts of 2D screens that we're using in real life, those screens have to be really not only usable, they have to be easy to use, fun to use. They have to be a great experience if we want to replace the actual thing, right? So that, and the statement was that very often that is very important to people. And he even said, like, XR is the important things in XR are screens and people. And I think he has a point there, because social VR is important, and screens. People are very, very often going to look at some sort of a device or something, and that's why I think it's important to be able to prototype screens in XR well. That's my point here, that I want to be able to prototype that well. So, and for example, very often what I do, my own method of doing things is very often that I do prototyping in Figma, and as we talked earlier, I mean, that's my own method of testing screens, and then like showing it to stakeholders. So it's this menu interaction. Does that work for you? And then I test it out in XR, and very often I use shapes for that to bring it in context. Right? So to show it in a spatial context, to stage it, right? And you're familiar with Figma, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think many people are. And sorry, I was just reading some, because there are some questions and interesting comments. I didn't want to interrupt you. What do you prefer? Do we want to bring them up, or you want to finish this?
Maybe let me finish it real quick, then we don't spend too much time. So basically, yeah. So, what we talked about earlier is basically in this slide here. Challenges for designing screens in XR is early prototyping, spatial context. Because if you show your stakeholders a Figma screen, they don't know the context. They don't understand, like, where is it in space? Is it right in front of my face? Is it like 10 meters away? Is it like above?
My wrist? Wrist maybe, or
yeah. So you have to, and also there's the context. The spatial context is important because you have to check your typography. Does it work in that distance that you want to use it? Is it typeface too thin? Does it look good from an angle? These kind of things. And it's what we talked about earlier, design system context. So if there's a company that is very particular about their branding. And then you can also look at framework constraints, which I very often do, because I design in Figma. I already have an eye on what I can do with my frameworks. So as I said, solution is ideation, impression testing, spatial staging with mockups, ShapesXR, using Figma for design system continuity, and referencing frameworks constraints early. So here's a Figma page that I use in Shapes, where I just put them together. It's clickable. I can show it to the client, and I show, okay, this is how you click it, and then I show it in the spatial context. So UI testing, spatial mockup, ideation for impression testing, environment testing, interaction testing. And so just to sum it up with the diamonds here, so basically, what I said earlier, while we, in the process of problem definition, and before we go into a solution, the solution diamond, we should already consider the constraints that we have, or the easy wins, to put it in a positive way. That makes it easier for yourself, And so here's the example that I came up with to show you. Was a little scene I put together to demonstrate that you were so kind to animate. So what I wanted to show with that little scene was, okay, I had an idea for a product presentation. The idea was that you introduce a new.
Cornel, may I just hold you up? Because this could be a good thing to do it directly, maybe in Shapes. What do you think? To go.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick overview. Then it's easier to understand. It's easier to understand because some things I cannot do in Shapes.
Right.
For example, I wanted to show the. For example, what I do here. For example, the panels here from Figma, they're actually referencing the advanced VR framework that I use from Unreal. So the Figma layout is done in a way that I know I can easily pull it off with my framework in Unreal. So it's easy for me, right? The other thing is up here, for example, it's the same thing. I have I'm going to do a radial button here that I also know I can easily do in my framework. And of course, what I very often do is I use the Ready Player Me avatars for mockups, which are super cool. I recommend to anyone. Get yourself a Ready Player Me account. It's super easy to. It's so much fun. I love these characters are so gorgeous. I'm totally in love with them, and they're so easy to stage. Basically, for a mockup, you just pull it into Blender and you pose it, and then you export it, put it into shapes, and you're done, right? And so basically, that's my process of quickly coming up with ideas, referencing what I'm going to do later, and using mock-up tools like Ready Player Me and with Blender to throw it into shapes and to quickly, and what I really love about Shapes, by the way, is the web sharing. That's a killer feature. So that really works really well, because a lot of people don't want to go into VR. They just want to see what's going on, and then you can show them a quick mock-up and see this is what my idea is, and they explain it. There's going to be an amazing animation with these two characters in the middle, and they're going to do all sorts of crazy stuff while the music is pounding. And so it's basically a quick impression test. That's what it is,
Right. And absolutely. So let's do this. I do have a few more, a couple questions that I think we can go over rather quickly, so that we can then go in ShapesXR, show you a couple of things, and then show you also the web panel, and I think you guys are going to love it. So one questions, and again, Cornel, can you explain the basic use of Figma for VR MR? Is it a toolkit for Figma, or also to be used with a head-mounted display?
The Figma is strictly a UX UI tool, is with a focus on mobile and web design. So it's a competitor to Adobe XD,
right,
or to Sketch on Apple. And it has become, I think, the leading tool these days. So it's basically,
and I think it still remains great to design the screens, because let's be honest, there is also another point that Suzanne brings in. Screens, that's what she's referring to, need to be reimagined. But there are screens, but where it makes sense, there should still be screens. Right, so this is another point that from Susan. So I believe that some design should be spatial, and Figma, on the other hand, is still great to make a flat design because of it's so widespread. So it's absolutely in that case. And I believe that there are also some toolkit that allow you to reference what you have built with a Figma template and a MRTK template. You can get it, for example, into Unity, and you can get those cross-reference. So something that maybe you can check out.
And I bet you we'll be seeing more of that. These guys from Figma, they're not sleeping. They know what's going on.
Yes,
I'm sure they're working already on something. Because
kickstart is here to stay, of course.
Of course.
Question: we have one last question from Milena, and here I don't know if there is any way to answer, because can you tell us more about UX in VR in addition to design of menus and controls? Now, I will guess an answer is get the book, because there is really where there is a lot of it, right? And it's that holistic overview. What are the problems? There are also, for example, about design document. You mentioned, for example, a game design document. How can be readapted in order to be used as a handover to developers? There are some real case at the end of the book where you can really see the process. It's so broad that, Milena, I really suggest you to get the book, because I did it and I enjoyed it. That's a bit of my suggestion. So why don't we go in shapes then, Cornel? Can you share again the name of the number shape code, and then we can go in a private chat, so that we can...
1 second, I just wanted to show you something real quick.
Oh, please go ahead.
Because I just wanted to show, for example, what I referenced here, like for example, the radial menus.
Yes.
Is it so? Basically, can you see the?
Yes, we are streaming.
So these are the radial menus from the advanced framework for Unreal.
Right.
And they're super nice. They're really elegant. They have a little animation on them, and So they're easy to set up in the framework. So, and I love them, and that's why I reference them in my concepts, because I want to use them, right? And so this is and
let's go in. Let's go in. That was really a good example to show what actually you were.
one last one real quick. I have a second one here. So this is the these are the panels. So basically, these are the panels used in the framework. So I reference them with Figma. You know, when I do my Figma layouts, I know, okay, I have this animation. I know how I'm going to pull that off. You know, and I build my Figma templates according to the framework features. So that's it.
Yeah. So it's about how do you also influence the early design based on the knowledge and the tool set that you have forward, right? So you know that something is going to be done in a way in your framework, you get it back and you say you inform the design. Okay.
So designing for easy wins, you know, that's what.
Don't share your secret, Cornel. So can you show the private can you show the code of the space on your private chat, on our private chat here on the platform, and then we can go in. Let me see if I have it actually. Maybe I do have it still. I think I do. Yeah, I do have it. So let's go in.
So we're going into shapes now? Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
I'm now, guys, going to share. So give me a second. Give me a second. Here it's all live in pure spirits of I think it's this one. Here we go. Hi Cornel. Let me just very quickly start sharing. And here we are.
Okay, I can hear. I'm going to turn off my mic.
Yes.
Okay, so now it should be good, right?
Yes, I think so. So here we are, guys. You should be able to answer. This was basically.
But you know what? I don't hear you now because I was hearing you before, but now I don't hear. So let me turn on the mic again. Gabrielle? Okay, then I have to wear my headphones over my, which I hardly ever do. Let me try to do that. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Is it work now?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, awesome. So this was basically the little scene that you were mentioning, Cornel, right? So get us through that idea.
Say what?
Why don't you guide us through that idea? So this concept that you created here in Shapes.
Yeah, so basically the idea was to have a quick product introduction. So I wanted to introduce these speakers.
Right.
And with a quick menu to show some features and tech info. And then at some point it should trigger an animation, which I only wanted to visualize by just having the scene here as a mock-up.
Right.
And so what I did was basically I imported my Figma screens here so that I can simulate the menu.
Right.
And then basically on the last, on this one, so this is the last stage should be the one where the animation gets triggered. And then up there on the right, I have this radial button.
Right.
Where you should then be able to get extra options to customize the speakers, give it different colors, and to kind of interact more,
Yeah, maybe we can kind of maybe build one very quickly. We are here, actually. Let's so that people get a quick impression of how this is. So let me make this little radial volume as you suggested.
I see, exactly. Yeah.
To...
Very good. Exactly, that's what I had in mind.
Right?
Yeah.
And what we can do as well is that, let me just add some UI element here. Now, of course, these are mockup icon, right? It could be anything, but we can kind of like snap it, make a
Yeah.
duplicate.
Cool. Yeah. Exactly. Cool.
And actually, maybe what could be interesting, let me see if we can, I can kind of like maybe duplicate this, go
Hmm.
back here and select this. Uh,
I mean, you could, for example, now add an extra frame and then
yes,
add the next step of it, right? The next
yeah,
because
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
would or make it a little okay. Move ahead then move out. That's also a good idea. Yeah.
Right. So I'm kind of like simulating that little, let's say, let me also do this. And but just to give an impression to people of how, so in this case, you have stage 4, 5, 6, you show how that's simulated. Then maybe we could make that one is actually highlighted, right? That's maybe selected, and that's kind of like the highlighted states. And then we could make on the next one quickly, uh, right?
Yeah. Cool.
I wonder how
Exactly.
many hierarchy you can go, because also then the icons are gonna get smaller and smaller. So that is an interesting point. But this is maybe
Yeah.
like a good example, right? So we have
Yeah,
that.
that's
We have
great. That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Exactly. That's exactly. So that's actually what I had in mind.
yeah,
You.
and maybe once the music start playing, we could actually add some sound here. Let me just wait. Huh? We can do this.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
cool idea. That's good.
right? And we add
Yeah.
a little bit of transparency in purple just because the music needs to pump,
Yeah. Right. Okay. Cool.
right?
I like
So
it.
I
I
think
like
this
it.
is a bit of like the kind of like idea of quick concepts. So once the music starts, maybe something happens, and then you
Yeah.
can go
Yeah.
your process while you build stuff. Let me see if there is any questions, because maybe we are doing something, we are being too fast. I see 4 comments. I see Asoku, very nice, wonderful, easy to use. Yeah, check it out. It's ShapesXR. But indeed, so this is how you kind of like stage this little concept, and then you put things in it, right? So to actually do this. And I do have another question. Actually, Cornell, I want to share something
Mm.
with you. We have an interesting update that might come in handy.
Mm.
Because what I was going to tell right now is that you can export this to Unity. But of course, I know that you are a very Unreal, right? You are a big Unreal fan. But
Mm.
we don't have coming up export in GLTF format.
Oh, okay. That's good. Yeah. I mean that'll help. Yeah, for sure.
That should be like should help out. So this was a
Yeah.
little bit of this quick concept we built with Cornell. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about this? Here, this is actually an image, right? Right. This is an image.
Yeah, yeah. I just took a screen grab, and because the original idea was that the scene is at first on the 2D screen, and then
Right.
when the music comes on, like the whole scene becomes awakes, and then it
Right.
becomes 3D, right? So to basically show that the music is immersive and the music makes everything 3D. So, but that was the idea.
Okay. So
So
basically,
so
what you were saying is that this kind of like on stage 1 is kind of like coming out, and then so from stage 1 to 3, the music is like if it's coming out. So from stage 1 to 3, the stage is coming
yeah,
out. Then that's the moment that you do those steps.
exactly.
Okay, okay, good. Let's show that maybe quickly that web thing, right? So that people are aware of how this. So this was actually. Uh, So right now, there is a question from Susan. Right now, there are no animation capabilities, and we have seen that many designers just found that particularly time-consuming. So that's why we decided to stick with something that was indeed like a real storyboard. But we don't exclude the possibility to actually have interpolation between those frames. So, but what I wanted to show you is right now this, and was that indeed that web panel that 169 that Cornell was referring to. Let me just go in while it's loads. And meanwhile, if you guys have any other question, let me know. Let me just, it should be loading.
You're loading the web?
Yes, I'm loading the web viewer.
Okay.
Yes, opening space.
On your browser, on your computer?
Yes,
now,
it's on
okay.
my browser now. Let me go back. I am hopping between different tabs. I should have us back. Here we go. So this was indeed the design that you guys should be able to see now, right? You have here, and we have the stages that we have built. So you see that I was actually editing this with Cornell in like real time, and this was actually the little radial menu that we were showing. So you see that those are all the kind of like stages in a way animated within the web panel. So you can still kind of like explore, move around, and then share your own design. So that is actually one of the nice things. And maybe I know that Cornell, you might not like me, but I want to share also how it works with Unity because you have a Unity plugin where you can actually type in. And you can actually, I've added the plugin. You can find it on our website, and then you can type the space code. In this case, 139169, and then you will be able to. It is there. Here we go. So now that you have that the whole scene is actually in, see everything has been exported. So if then you want to go ahead and start designing or changing object, you have the ability to do so because you are still then within Unity, and you can play around with the stuff that you have created. So this is a bit of some of the example of how you can actually bring and move from that. From those ideation, from that low fidelity prototyping, and then continue your workflow, and of course bring into Unity's away. We'll have GLTF export as I anticipated to Cornell, so that also people that are real, and USD. So also real people will feel included in this.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear.
That's about it. So these are some of the things that we want to share, and it's about indeed the overall process. Do you guys have any questions, Cornell? We can go out of VR and get back to the people watching.
Okay.
Yeah. So Alison, no, you cannot right now import directly into a reel. You will be able to import into export a GLTF file that you will need to import. So it is indeed one step, and it's not available right now. But in a few weeks, we are gonna push that update. But meanwhile, you can still participate in the contest without exporting anything. You can just share with us the code. So the link to the contest is below. Just go there and check out the website. With the deadline for the submission is 10th of December, so you still have plenty of time to create your own design for share your vision for how media consumption is going to be done in the metaverse. Cornell, I see you want to share something.
Yeah, I can. I wanted to just show you real quick something.
Sure.
So I think what I think is so cool because it works so well that you can easily also you can export the the blend shapes from Blender. So for example, if you have the characters and you just change the blend shape to a smiley character, and I did the same thing for the other character here. Where you can change the facial expressions,
right?
And 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 then you could do animations that way, where you just frame by frame basically bring over the different facial expressions as OBJs, for example, if it's really important,
Yeah, exactly,
And
exactly. I think that's the point. Is we shouldn't try to replicate, but indeed, the Ready Player Me avatar are really a blast.
yeah, I
I
mean,
saw
I
the team
really
about one.
recommend. So you guys, like, if you want to have fun with if you want to have fun in the metaverse, like, check out the Ready Player Me. They're so cute. I mean, they're so gorgeous, and the customization options are super cool. So I really love those, and they're so easy to use. You can download them, modify them, and use them for mock-ups. It's so cool. So it's highly recommended.
So one question from Sonak: where in the workflow would you use ShapesXR?
Where in the what?
Where in the workflow would you use
Oh,
ShapesXR?
yeah, at the very beginning, at the very beginning, when you have an idea, you want to impression test, you do impression testing. Impression testing means you have a rough idea how to sketch out a space, what items are supposed to be in there, and you want to validate that idea with your stakeholders. You want to show it around. You're like, hey, what do you think about this? You had a meeting earlier saying we want to do a learning app for this and that, and you sketch something out. You said, okay, we have this here, this item here, and then you share your ideas with your stakeholders, and that's very early in the process, in the UX design process. So it's the ideation, the very early concept stages. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
where it
indeed,
belongs.
indeed. So we are going to soon wrap up. So, Cornel, is there anything that you would like to share with actually people that are UXers that want to approach this new world, and maybe that sometimes feel a bit frightened or maybe like hesitant? I mean, what advice would you give to people that are approaching this?
So yeah, I mean, I my advice is to understand all the different tools and platforms, what they do, and of course to read my book, and then also to hook up with people. So we talked about it earlier. I wanted maybe at some point want to do a meetup in Altspace at some point, where we get together as designers and exchange ideas. So it's really important to have people to discuss things with. And overall, I think, I mean, I believe the big things are frameworks and visual scripting, to get good at those at some point. If you want to take that route.
Yeah, and I think I also want to point out, like reinforce, it's just get involved with the community, and community can take many places and many form, right? The Discord is a very strong place where you can be get engaged with the tool, with the framework. It could be MRTK, it could be you're doing maybe a design course. I mean, CPU Stream is offering a lot of them, and they are very good, and they have a very active community within the alumni, within the people that are doing the course in Slack. So in general, I mean, the XR ecosystem is very open to anybody that wants to learn. So it's not, you will not find a lot of close-minded and says, no, that's ours. Yeah, who are you? We don't have any experience. Almost nobody has experience, really, if you really look at it at the core, because it's something that is evolving so fast. So I mean, a way to get involved and start is really to get involved. It could be with us, ShapesXR. We also have a Discord group. Go on our website, you can check it out. It could be the contest. It could be the other virtual reality groups. Share your work on Reddit. I mean, there are so many ways. Just don't think that you are there alone, because when you will start engaging, commenting, adding feedback, you will see that things, you will learn, and you will also show your work. I think that's absolutely very important. So, guys, we are wrapping up. Cornel, I want to thank you very much for being up so late and for being here and sharing your expertise. And I want to thank everybody that has been listening to us, has been sticking with us. And remember, we have a contest running. Try out ShapesXR, and for the rest, I wish you really a great remaining of the week. Cornel, thank you very much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gabriel. Really enjoyed it. I really like ShapesXR. Hope you guys are going to share a roadmap soon.
Okay, yes, we will. You're certainly here
And
for us.
yeah, looking forward to the next feature set. And but really, it has been a lot of fun. So and
Awesome.
yeah, let's keep the community growing. Let's keep people connected. I think it's really interesting, and it's really interesting to share different points of view, because it's an evolving industry, and everyone has their own take and their own insights. So it's an interesting time at the moment. So
Awesome. Thank you very much, Cornel. Thanks so very much, everybody, and have a great week.
all right, bye bye.